Hey, Ben Crosswhite here. I've gotten a lot of questions recently on the spine fitness subject, which is my specialty, and specifically with long distance running or running in general. And so I want to break that down to you. I'm going to answer these questions and break them down and let you know my viewpoints on that, what I've experienced firsthand, the articles and journals I've read, and things that I've studied over the years that help to cooperate with the findings. So enjoy and feel free to send things in. Why am I a spine fitness expert? I have done a lot of work with spine fitness over the past 6 to 7 years. I got introduced to a neurosurgeon that I helped his back, and he did mainly back surgeries. He invented a new technique with the back surgery, and I scrubbed in for 6 months, diving into the spinal surgery of different calibers, of different types of spinal surgeries. And I've studied this for the past 7 years now, on top of my biology degree, and it's been just a big passion of mine to be a part of spine fitness. I'm working on a certification course now for spine fitness trainers, and that'll be released in the next few months. But there are a lot of PT hours I have in, a lot of chiropractic hours I have in, as well as being a personal trainer for about 15 years now. So I love it. I love spine fitness, and I think there's a big need. I think it's a niche that has not been filled yet. So you have a lot of trainers, majority of trainers that can do kind of a well-rounded everything with weight loss, muscle development, metabolic training, whatever it may be. But there's not many that have a specific niche into spine fitness. You go to a physical therapist that may have a niche in it. You go to a chiropractor, obviously. You go to an orthopedic surgeon or a neurosurgeon. But how do you connect the dots? How do you dive into spine fitness, have fitness that's healthy for your back, you're not going to get hurt, and in fact you're going to make progress and see those little steps along the way without causing more injury. A lot of times physical therapists, which are excellent majority of the time, after surgeries, they go through some basic movement patterns which are excellent to do. However, taking a progression forward from that point is hard for them to do. They didn't study exercise science. They didn't study some of the things that personal trainers are going to study. So having a personal training degree, whether it be CSCS or ACSM, or another one that's of a high caliber, is great, but then specializing in spine fitness is going to be that next step. And I think that's connecting the dots between chiropractors, PTs, and neurosurgeons. Why is running bad for the back? It's a little bit of a play on words. Running is not all bad on the back, but certain types of running are. Long distance running is one of the hardest things for the lower back specifically. It can be hard on thoracic and cervical spine as well, but the lower back, long distance running is a lot of pounding, and if you look at the video of me running, it shows that it is a lot of unilateral pounding one side to the next, which is going to cause a lot of pressure on one side, one facet joint, and then the opposite facet joint. The facet joints are right here. You have one on either side. They are filled with synovial fluid, and they take a lot of the pressure of the disc. They take 35% each. The disc itself takes 30%. So when you have that pressure coming down and you're pounding and pounding and pounding, it's not just 35% on each side at that point. It then becomes 70% on one side and then 70% on the opposite side. It's obviously going to put more pressure on one side and then the other, and you do that repetitively. Multiple times, say 5,000 steps, 10,000 steps, pounding, 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 it's going to cause a lot of wear and tear, and it's going to cause some annular tears as well, because the pressure is going to be on not only that one facet joint, but also the disc itself and the annulus fibrosus that contains that nucleus or inner side of the disc. So that's where you get a lot of injuries. That's where you get a lot of disc bulges, herniations. You get a lot of facet arthritis. And then you also have some SI issues. SI joint dysfunction is really common in runners. It's really hard. That joint, as you may or may not know, is the most limited joint in the body, so it's only 4 to 6 degrees that it will actually move. And when you put all that pressure, one side and the next side, pounding continuously, it causes a lot of damage, and unfortunately a lot of irreversible damage. So running is not necessarily bad. It's long distance running that is really hard on that lower back specifically, and the hips, and of course the knees, but we're talking more about the back here. Majority of my hundreds and hundreds of spine fitness only clients I've had over the years, the number one thing is running. The long distance running is the number one attribute to lower back pain and lower back injury that leads to surgery. Yeah, absolutely there's good qualities to running. Running can be done right, and I'd say I usually tell my clients to stay away from 3 miles or more at one duration. So that will cause the inflammation to go down. That is not going to be too much unilateral pounding at one instance, for an hour or 2 hours of running. So 3 hours is a good marker to try not to go past. I like doing 5Ks. I push my clients to do 5Ks. You get into 10K occasionally, it's not probably going to be hurtful to your back. But you start running a marathon a year, or you run a half marathon each year, you're going to feel the pain because you obviously have to train leading up to that marathon or half marathon. So the short distance running, I'm a big fan of burst training. That is sprinting and then light jog or walk, and then sprinting again and light jog or walk. You're actually going to recruit more muscle fibers doing that. You're going to recruit them harder and faster, and you're going to burn more calories in the process. So doing a 1 mile run and walk is going to burn more calories than doing a 1 mile steady jog, and it's going to be much easier on your back. Of course, the type of running, the heel strike, and different ways of running that a trainer can explain, especially a running coach can explain. Parker Spencer is great out in Scottsdale, Arizona. I've worked with him before, and he is an Olympic triathlon trainer, and he can show exactly how to do the correct heel strike, how to do the proper running form, and that'll help. That'll take pressure off the back, but ultimately going past 3 miles, you're putting yourself in some kind of vulnerability there. The other big thing that would help with running to where you can still run but not the long distance is doing the burst training, but also the incline. A high incline is known to take a lot of pressure off your back. It actually puts more pressure on the glutes and the hamstrings and takes pressure off of the back itself. There's not as much pounding. You can see in the video of me doing that high incline, it's a lighter step. It's not a pound and pound and pound repetitively. And you're going to burn out faster, you're going to build more muscle, and you're going to burn more calories in a much, much shorter duration. So I would say the high incline running, whether it be heels outside or on an incline inside on a treadmill, or doing the burst training of a sprint walk, sprint jog, whatever it may be, is going to be much more beneficial, rewarding for your back and your overall health, and burning calories and losing weight. So why is long distance running damaging to the heart? A lot of journals that I've read, there's a couple from Harvard Review that put out, I think one journal was in 2016, one was more recently, I think in 2020. One review actually talked about the aorta, and the aorta is the most superior artery of the heart. It's on the right side of the heart, and it's the largest artery in the body. But it talks about the inflammation of the aorta. It talks about damage of inflammation, dilation, which is usually caused in people that are going to experience heart failure or bulging of those arteries. So that's one study that was done. I think that one was done the most recently. There was another one that talked about scar tissue or myocardial fibrosis, which is scar tissue of the heart. And it talked about long distance running, and it was really high intensity of any exercise for a long duration. So it's when your heart is really striving to get the blood flow out, to get oxygen to your muscles and to your organs for a long duration. It's going to develop scar tissue in certain areas, and mostly they saw that in the right atrium and the right ventricle. And I'm not sure why that was, but that's where the study suggested doing ultrasounds, and they also talked about the hardening of the valves in the heart as well. So long distance running, there's plenty of research to show that 25% of long distance runners have these effects. They have the aortic inflammation, they have the scar tissue or the myocardial fibrosis, and it's mainly in those long distance runners that do it year in, year out. So not only is it hard on the back, but it is going to be harder on the heart. There are things that you can do differently, like I had already mentioned, but that's for any exercise. You can do anything too much and cause pressure on the joints, hardening of the heart and different aspects there. But I always say, if you do push-ups all day, you do 1,000 push-ups every single day, you're gonna have other issues. You're gonna have shoulder girdle problems, and you may have cervical neck pain. So that's why I like to have such a variety in my exercises that I give my clients. And they're the ones that are gonna be the healthiest long-term and have the least amount of issues and the best quality of life later. Yeah, there is something worse than long-distance running, and that's sitting. Sitting is really second on my list of the hundreds of patients that I've seen with the spine fitness and developing programs for them to help either not go into spinal surgery or after their surgery, getting them back to quality of life. But the sitting is right up there with the running, and it's any jobs that require a lot of sitting. I've dealt with a lot of truck drivers, I've dealt with a lot of pilots, desk jobs, obviously. So I usually do the 20-minute rule of saying that if you're gonna sit and you have a sitting job, you need to stand multiple times throughout that day. So every 20 minutes, get up and stand, stretch, bend over, squat down, walk around the room. And that's gonna do so much more to your back and helping your back to not have any back injury. And what I explained this in a different video, but sitting is gonna flex your spine. So I think we called him George last time. We'll keep his George the same here. So when you sit, your spine, your back naturally flexes. What that does, it stretches the muscles out and it puts more pressure on the spine itself, on the disc, on the facet joints, on just the entire vertebral bodies. And what's gonna happen long time doing that is it's gonna find weak spots in this annulus out here, the outer ring. When you have a weak spot there and you put all the pressure down by flexing the spine for a long duration, it'll eventually start to bulge and start to tear, and you'll get some annular tears there eventually. But it's really bad. It'll tighten the iliopsoas muscle, which is the hip flexor. It'll put your body in a constant anterior pelvic tilt in your pelvis, causing other issues. It weakens your core. So there's a lot of bad things with sitting, and the fact that you're not even going to get any exercise on top of that. So you're looking at adipose fat tissue buildup. You're gonna no heart benefits. The sedentary life is one of the worst lives, and that is studied over and over again, and it's proven over and over again. So the one thing worse than running long distance is sitting and sedentary life, and so get up and move. The discs are the largest avascular membranes in your body. So what that means is they don't get nutrients or hydration on their own. So there's no nerves coming into the disc, there's no blood vessels coming into the disc. So what happens is if you don't move, you're not pushing nutrients into the disc and then excreting them back out. It's gonna cause them to get more brittle, and they're gonna get less hydrated. So the more you move, the better. Obviously, good movements are better, and we get that in another video. We talk about that, but sitting is one of the worst things you can do for your back outside of long distance running. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. As always, subscribe, like this if you don't mind, give me a thumbs up, and let me know any other videos you'd like to see. I love doing things that are gonna be needed to the community, and I need ideas. I'm big into spine fitness, as you can tell, and I love giving information out to those that are needed.